how do you choose, what are the parameters on which you can choose optional subject? Any optional you can choose. So it's a very, I have also difficulty, but I have also some help. So I have also spoken something, and I will link into that. I will tell you about, that there is only one optional you need to choose, right? Then I will talk about what are the parameters on which you can choose optional. Any optional you can choose, right? There are around 40 subjects, including languages. How do you choose? What are the parameters on which you can choose optional subject? Any optional you can choose, right? So first you have to see out of 40, right? Like you have so many options for your marriage, but you cannot select all, right? First you have to select 4, 5, and then again figure out the one, right? Why one? You have to look at why you are interested into that particular subject, right? Is it that you are knowing that subject previously? For example, if you have a girlfriend 5 years, 6 years, and then you again marrying to her, it would be easy life, right, in future, right? Similarly here, if you knowing subject earlier, like UG, PG, if you have done in that subject, and you have interest in that subject, right, you can collaborate and then marry with the subject, right, and have romance with that subject, right? Not romance when you want, but also when the subject wants your time to be invested, right? So it's not that you want, then you would read the subject. No, sometimes what happens, that subject requires more reading, right? That you have to fulfill. Then it will be a happy, conglomeration, right? So if you have, first thing you have to choose among the many. First one, once you have already chosen, then you have to see that whether there are good materials in market or not. That is also difficulty, right? Good materials, good mentors, books, that you have to decide, right? For example, if you choose some for example Telugu in Delhi, right, it would be very difficult to pursue Telugu literature in Delhi, right? So you have to choose first, and then you have to choose whether mentor, subject matter, everything is available in the market or not. Fourth, you have to see whether it is scoring or not. That is also important. And it is not that, as Huma has pointed out, it's not that a particular subject which is scoring. I told you that how much, how can you maintain a good life, a good happy life with your equal partner or better partner? As much as you explore each other, as much as you just, fulfill each other's, then you can have a good, right, happiness. Where here happiness is a marks in your mains, paper 1 and paper 2, right? Next thing, then you have to see the parameter whether this your selected optional is covering GS paper. So every subject, for whether it is a public ad or whether it is history, whether it is geography, whether it is PSIR, all subjects covers little bit or more or less some parts of PSIR. The GS. Fine. So these are the few qualifier parameters on which you should choose, because due to the lack of time, I have also talk about why you should choose PSIR, right? So that now I'm moving to the PSIR. PSIR is one of the vast syllabus in among the optional, right? And it is also one optional which covers approximately 60 to 64% of the GS paper, right? For example, if you talk about GS paper 1, like national freedom struggle, role of leaders like Gandhi, Ambedkar, Jayaprakash, right? If you talk about GS paper 2, like entire polity, right, that you will pursue in depth, then international relation. Now you can see this year the UPSC has shocked us right? They introduced few question from IR in PT, right? So now importance of IR has increased. What happens when candidates are selected? It's rare that we have seen that they choose IFS as a first choice. They choose as a IAS or IPS, right? And what happens when they appointed as a IFS? Right, the person or the bureaucrat faces lots of difficulty. Right, they don't know what is IORA, what is BRICS, what is Quad, right, and what is diplomacy, what is difference between diplomacy and foreign policy, right? So international relation, governance, social justice. So entire GS paper 2 PSIR covers. GS paper 3 if you talks about then economic development and planning, liberalization, privatization, globalization, which is there in the PSIR. If you talk about GS paper 4, right, PSIR, if you see the thinkers, right, especially the ancient Greek thinker, which thought and wrote in some ethical manner, right? They put some moral questions, ethical questions before the rulers, and that ethical questions still persist, right? For example, why do we need justice, right? What can be called citizen? Why should revolt against the state, and why should obey the state? Why should obey the law? There are some right. Then again, essay paper. If you have seen essay paper this time, the essay paper has two division, part 1 and part 2, right? Majority of out of 8, 7 were from political philosophy. So therefore, the PSIR is a full potential, a paper which you can opt, right? I'm putting my case. It's up to you, right? You are the best judge of your own self. PSIR is a good subject where you have, you can opt, but mind it, what Huma Hassan has mentioned already, you have to do rigorously, right? You have to explore the subject in depth. Fine. Books, if you can ask, we will talk later. That here I am just, books, if you ask, you can ask me later on, because there are lack of time. I'm putting end here, just stopping. Thank you.